keep it going, I'm rolling and flowing, I'm coasting, I got them all trolling me right. I just keep growing and showing them, knowing I'm owning this flow, you can catch me outside. Gonna get them all with a little payback. Never gonna fall, I'ma stay on the attack. Put them up against the wall as I finish every track. Never gonna stall, no, I'm never gonna slack. I've been like working in
the club and the city show me love. She gon' fit me like a glove. Sipping whiskey, feeling buzz. R.I.P. Rest in peace. R.I.P. Rest in peace. R.I.P. Rest in peace. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Yeah.
And we are back. So, hopefully you enjoyed those absolute monster bombs of Mr. Shohei Ohtani, who is going to be my first surprise of the season. Second off, getting into it, I'm going to discuss a couple of rookies here, boys. I got, is it Adolis Garcia? Adolis Garcia with the Rangers, kind of the one lone bright spot for the Rangers right now. You're talking 16 home runs, 41 ribbies at the break here. He's been really a pleasant surprise to a team that, well, hasn't had too much good luck. They're sitting about 20 games below 500 right now. Pulling the record here, just for clarification, yep, 35 and 55, 20 games below, 19 and a half games back of the cheat Stros. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about, rookie surprises here? Obviously, Garcia, I think, is, AL Rookie of the Year candidate. He's kind of running away with it right now.
Addicts Garcia is a monster. He hits, he's fielding well. I mean, he doesn't let much get past him, and the guy's fast. Quick definitely helps you in baseball more than you realize.
Yo, love Addicts, really a bright spot for a last-place team, and look for him to be a solid everyday player for years to come.
Well, and here's a surprising stat that I pulled up earlier while doing a little bit of research on him. He's actually he's had 3 extra inning home runs, including one game where he hit the tying home run in the 10th and then hit the game-winning home run in the 12th. So, I mean, you're talking to a guy who actually is batting, I think, what was it? It was just below 400 in clutch moment situations. So, late inning games, runners in scoring position in the 7th or later. He's batting when he needs to bat good.
That exact thing you're talking about, we actually had to do that moment in the show. They do these Tops Now moments.
Yep.
Where you have to recreate. So if you did that, that's how you got, was it an 89, I believe? Was it an 89 Addicts Garcia to start the season off?
Hell of a challenge there. I mean, I pulled that off in the road to the show once or twice, but my guy's also a power-hitting switch hitter who plays for the Rockies, so a little bit easier to do it there in Coors Field with that shallow left field and that high altitude.
Balls fly.
Balls fly, and it's not the only thing that's high in that stadium usually.
You ain't wrong.
You ain't wrong there. So, I don't know, Mike, what do you kind of think about Garcia here? Kind of final points before we move on as far as, his future for the Rangers, and hopefully bringing that team a little bit back here. I say hopefully probably for the rest of the league, not so much as an Angels fan. The Rangers can fucking burn in hell right next to the Astros.
Yeah, a little bit of an older rookie from Cuba. Yeah, just another one of those great Cuban players that got over here a little bit later and super talented, 5-tool player even.
So
I think the ceiling is kind of the limit for him. And if he stays there or he goes elsewhere, I think he'll continue to have a good career.
Yeah. See what happens there. But another surprising player is not so much, I would say, a rookie because he's already had some playing time in the MLB, does not qualify for Rookie of the Year. But Trevor Rogers for the Miami Marlins, someone who was the 13th overall pick in 2017, got bumped up last year during the 2020 year, and I don't know if God awful's fair, but I mean, when you have a 6.31 ERA when you start the whole season, and 8 or 9 starts he had, I mean, did not have a good season last year in 2020. He's turning it around though. He's posting about a 187 in 11 starts right now. He has a plus 10 K for 9 rating right now. And he's only allowed 3 home runs all year in starting status. So obviously the Marlins kind of somebody who's, still in competition in the East. They're definitely still in competition in that East at 39 and 50. They're only 9 games back right now. They surprised us a little bit last year, but Rogers I think is probably one of my bigger surprises too, as far as coming out of the Marlins. The year he had last year, having that really high ERA and really buckling it down and showing why he was selected in the first round.
You're not wrong there with that, and also how you were saying Trevor Rogers, he has got a great accuracy. He puts that thing right in the zone. I was watching a thing on MLB the other day talking about his strikes percentage, and he throws, I believe it's 4 strikes or 5 strikes for every ball.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, I was reading that too, and I just failed to put it in my notes here. But also, I think he only has like 33 walks on the season too. I mean, in 11 starts, it's impressive. You're averaging like what, 3 walks a start. If you're pitching, an average of 6 innings, every other inning you're walking a guy. It's not terrible. We've seen a lot worse from young pitchers there, and who haven't had the ERA success that he's having either.
No, he's figured out his movement, and his slider is nasty.
What do you think, Mike? What do you think about Mr. Rogers out of there in Miami? Obviously, we kind of thought Sixto might be the guy to highlight in Miami as far as young pitching. He struggled a little bit this year, but I don't know. Miami's always been that team who has young prospects. They've had a lot of talent come from there. I think we could probably field a world title team out of all the guys that Miami has just traded away or given up on in the past 10 years. Yelich, Stanton, the list goes on. Real Muto for the Phillies. It's just crazy to think of all the talent they've had in those doors, but is left.
Yeah, hopefully for the Marlins fans, however many are left, Rogers will be with you guys for a while. Probably going to be the ace for years to come, you'd think. Be a nice 1-2 duo with Sixto whenever he gets healthy and right.
Yeah, so I kind of picked, obviously, Shohei was a little bit of a, natural given surprise. When we also talk about surprises, though, who are some other players who are maybe having big boom seasons? I know, Siglin, you were kind of talking about someone that just recently I mistook and did not name as the All-Star Game MVP. So why don't you go ahead and talk about Vladdy Guerrero Jr.?
I think Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is kind of having one of the most surprising seasons. I mean, we saw his rookie season. He was coming out. He was looking hot, like that whole young Blue Jays team where when they had Bo Bichette, a young Kevin Biggio, young Vlad Jr., basically all the juniors of former MLB teams, MLB players. But with that being said, you go watch the COVID season, and I believe what did he hit, like 168, something like that? It was really terrible last year. He had like 5 or 6 home runs. Like, it wasn't a good number. And then you go to this year, he did what he needed to do. He worked out, he slimmed down, and the dude has the highest average in baseball, crushing home runs, and just looks like he's having fun out there. And that's the biggest thing.
And that's the thing we always kind of talked about with the Blue Jays, the young talent. You talk about Bo Bichette, you talk about Vladdy Guerrero Jr., a lot of the young players that they have there, it's only a matter of time before they break out. And obviously, sitting right now behind the Red Sox, I mean, I had a different team in my predictions, but they might be the one to move up. We'll find out in about 15 minutes here. But 3 games above 500, they're sticking right there with the Yankees. Obviously, a loaded AL East, but youth goes longer. And obviously, in a 60-game season, it was so hard to predict. But, now that they're kind of getting that experience, they're ratcheting it all up. They did enter the All-Star break at about a 4-6 in the last 10, so a little bit cold right now, but hopefully they can turn that around.
And with some of their call-ups, their pitching has gotten a lot better. Bringing Alex Manoah up, he's kind of seemed to be a little more stable than what Nate Pearson was.
I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
They've been getting a great year from Marcus Semien, one of their few big free agent additions. And hopefully George Springer is going to come back at some point, former World Series MVP. So, yeah, I definitely think the Blue Jays will be pushing for that AL East. Right up there, it's one of the toughest races to win.
Well, plus we know you want to get Springer into the playoffs because then he's just going to crush balls.
And especially if he's coming back from injury, he has time to kind of heal properly. You rotate him into the lineup as long as you make the playoffs and you kind of balance out with him being fully recovered. Having a fresh player, especially of George Springer's caliber, is only got 3-4 pluses on that, as far as, we're talking show points here. That's a +3, attribute gain all day long, boys. That is money in the bank. Cash the fucking check there. Shaw, who do you have as probably another player who's really just surprised you this year as far as breaking out, someone who maybe maintained some success over last year or, is a fresh breakout?
Yeah, I think Kevin Gossman leading that Giants rotation, a guy that looked like he was going to be out of the league after a couple rough seasons in Baltimore, now looking like a Cy Young candidate or Cy Young frontrunner, sub-2 ERA. So I'd say Kevin Gossman is probably my biggest, and then Cedric Mullins, a nice bright spot for a last-place team out there in Baltimore. Made an all-star appearance for the Orioles. So, yeah, Cedric Mullins and Kevin Gossman.
Gotcha. Well, that's it for the good. Now, boys, let's bring it on down to hell. Let's talk about the bad here. So, for my first disappointments, I don't have a player. I don't have a player. I don't have a manager. we're going to talk about the god-fucking-awful officiating that we have seen this year. Because don't get me wrong, I feel like in every sport, in the NBA, it's okay. Flopping has kind of been at a, subsided. But I feel like in the NFL, we just witnessed one of the worst officiating seasons of all time. And in baseball, they just said, hold my beer, watch this. I mean, this is the first time I think I've actually heard an umpire strictly called out in Angel Fernandez. I mean, it is absolutely crazy the amount of hate. Like Trevor Bauer absolutely shitposted on him. Now, pending allegations, we don't want to, be pro or against Mr. Bauer. We will see where that plays off. I think the world is a little bit too short-sighted as far as predicting these things. We will see what happens with Trevor Bauer as he is currently on administrative leave from the Dodgers. But, I mean, you're talking about an umpire that multiple teams have kind of come out. He has been cited multiple times. What is it, the no-hitter a couple of years ago? He was found actually getting autographed balls from the pitcher who threw the no-hitter. I mean, that's like Tim Donaghy stuff like that should get you sent to fucking prison, let alone, not just serve a little suspension and come back. Multiple-time playoff and World Series umpire. You look back at someone like this who is infamous now. And I think that just, results in what the rest of the league is doing right now. We have the highest amount of blown calls by replay. And in a time when a lot of people are kind of starting to chirp up for that automatic, umpire, having people not be on the field, but, maybe, with all the camera angles, go to a replay booth. Have someone who has all the angles make the call instead of on spot. Because, it takes the human element out of the game, but when we're watching the umpires become factors in the game, I think that's when it becomes a problem. Talking about this here, Sig, I'm going to kick to you after my long rant. What do you think about umpiring in the future? What do you think the future should be as far as human umpires in the MLB and the use of, replay and, camera angles as far as, making calls?
Well, weren't they talking about replacing, the behind-the-plate umps with robots by, 2025 or some shit? I remember, 2 years ago, that was, a big deal. But also, with the shitty officiating, you gotta love the shows that the pitchers have been putting on for when they go do these little substance checks. That stuff has been comical to watch.
Or like the knuckleballer. That was the most hilarious part, is how he checked a knuckleballer 3 different times during the game. And I'm like, do you know the thing behind the substance is to make the ball rotate more to get more movement on it? A knuckleball doesn't move. It would be counterproductive. It's like a knuckleballer taking steroids. It's really kind of counterproductive because it goes against everything that a fucking knuckleballer does. It's like if R.A. Dickey was still in the league, would you really go substance check that man 4 times in the game?
No.
It's stupid. I don't know, Mike. What do you kind of think as far as the future of umpiring in the MLB? Because to the strike zone, that's actually probably the one thing I would keep. I do like the element of kind of a little bit more of a bias in strike zone. I did prefer that, and I've umped a couple little league games, in my time, a little church league softball. So on the very smallest level of umpiring, it's kind of nice to have the umps vary in that strike zone. But I think when we're talking about outs at first base, is one we need to send straight to the replay booth. What do you think?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Just have one master controller with each game that's independent, works for MLB, that has all the angles, that has a direct line to the home ump or the crew chief, and if they get a blatant call wrong, just be like, hey, you got that one wrong, check it. Yep. So, yeah, I do like there being a technology element, but I do like the old-fashioned certain umps have certain strike zones.
Yeah, like I said, I think the strike zone element for me personally is one thing that I would prefer to stay. I don't know if you go to that, but as far as we're talking like home runs around foul poles, we're talking about tag outs, at different bases, and then especially force outs at first and second base. I mean, I'd almost say that needs to be implemented ASAP. Just because how many times have we seen blown, who was it for the Tigers a handful of years ago, literally blown a perfect game in the last out of the 9th because the Jim Mayfield had a blown call at first. Now Mr. Mayfield obviously came out afterwards, said he reviewed the play. He called it incorrect. That should have been a perfect game. But it's like, how many times does that need to happen before maybe we start to be like, oh, it's not just the tradition of the game. Like, what do we care about the quality of the game a little bit? You know what I mean?
Well, it's just like when they had the coaches challenge, and then they've already gotten rid of that, Didn't they? Because I haven't seen it used in a while, I guess. I don't know if they got rid of it, but I haven't seen it.
Pretty sure there's still one challenge.
Yeah, I mean, but still, it just kind of eliminates the need for that. Same with the NFL. I get it. It presents another human element to the game. But how many times are we going to have situations like happened, with the Rams and the Saints a handful of years ago with that blatant pass interference that didn't happen? I mean, I feel like there's already a replay judge who's doing the challenges so they can get that right. just take 2 seconds in the game. Take 2 seconds. Maybe have it be all human element in no huddle in fourth quarter and, the end of the second quarter, cool. But like when you're playing in the first quarter and teams are already taking 30 to 45 seconds between the plays in the NFL, when you're having games like, that are being decided by these little crucial plays, I think it only adds to the quality of the game. Sure, some of the old school fans are going to be pissed off at first, but I think baseball is moving younger anyways. I think more people our age are getting reinvested. I know myself, I've been more reinvested in this 2021 season than I have in the past 5-6 years. You know what I mean?
Same.
Yeah, Siglin, I think this is probably the most invested you've ever been as a baseball fan.
Last year I was deep in it.
The 60-game season was pretty unique. I'm not going to lie. So, I don't know. Obviously, Shai, you've always been a huge baseball head. Obviously the love and the passion's been there, but it's just kind of nice to see other people pop up and, join you in that aspect. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, enough about the umpires. We can shit on them. We can rag on them. There could be a whole episode on them. My second most disappointing player, I'm going to take a shot at home. It's going to be Mike Trout. Not for his numbers, but for the fact of that damn calf injury has taken him out for so long. You have Shohei Ohtani, who is putting on an absolutely legendary season, and the best player in the game is nowhere to be found because he's on the IR right now. So, Mike, we'll kick it off to you. I mean, the Angels with Trout coming back, do you think that they're a contender in the second half? I mean, only being what? I just pulled it up here. I think they're 9.5 games back in the West right now. So 9 games back in the West, 45 and 44. They have the 27th ranked pitching, but their offense is a top 10 offense. Jared Walsh is just absolutely hitting the cover off the ball. We've went on about Ohtani. I mean, Trout comes back. Is this a title team that can possibly sneak into the playoffs and do some damage?
Yes, of course, it always comes back to pitching, but you got to love that sliding catch Jared Walsh made in the left field in the All-Star game. That was pretty cool for Angels fans. But yeah, hopefully Trout comes back. Also enjoyed how Trout got a call down to Ohtani during his timeout while batting during the home run derby. Like, who else has that much pull in baseball to get a call into somebody while they're hitting in the home run derby? But yeah, just need a few pitchers to step up. Hopefully they have some young guys ready to go for the second half.
Well, and I think there was a while there, guys like Patrick Sandoval, was pitching pretty decent for us. But, we went to the junk bin. We went to the bargain bin, grabbing guys like Dylan Bundy in the offseason. And I said this at the beginning of the year. I didn't have high hopes for the pitching staff. We were going to have to, do it on the offensive side of the ball. Now, Justin Upton, hitting pretty decent. That offense is good overall. I mean, David Fletcher is a beast as far as, just getting on base and creating scoring opportunities. But
Juan Lagares looks to be another diamond in the rough.
Exactly. So, I mean, but how many runs do you have to score before your staff just ends up allowing 9 runs and you're scoring 8 in a game? I can't tell you how many times I've gotten off work and I've seen a day game end. Oh, Angels lost 8-9, 7-11. Like, it's getting so frustrating seeing these high run totals from a team that, I mean, offensively is really one of the top offenses in baseball. So, but yeah, that's kind of a small little disappointment there. The only other player I'd kind of throw out there for me personally that's really disappointed is Francisco Lindor. I think there was a lot of hype this offseason kind of surrounding Steve Cohen and the acquisition of the Mets. Who was he going to bring into town? So he trades for Lindor, gets the big contract under the table. The man's making $30 million a year, but he's batting .221 right now. He is honestly one of the biggest downsides for the Mets. We talked about Yelich, I believe you brought up with the Brewers, but the Mets have their own kind of little thorn in their side, Lindor, when the rest of the team is outperforming him.
I think he is hands down the biggest disappointment in the MLB this year. My second choice was going to be Nolan Arenado, but for sure it is definitely Francis Lindor. I mean, everyone brought him in, thought he was going to be the savior of this franchise, and he can't do shit. What, he has like 2-3 home runs or something like that? He's having career lows and everything. His defense isn't even on top right now. So he's just literally full-on slumped.
Well, and I think last year the value kind of dropped a little bit because he was only a .280 hitter last year in the 60-game season. You thought maybe that was just a product of the shortened season. It was a product of multiple different factors. Not a lot of people invested too much into that 60-game season, including us. And I think we're kind of going back on that now because, I mean, obviously Pete Alonso has been a monster for the Mets, home run derby champ, leads them in 17 home runs, 49 RBIs, leads them in on-base percentage too. And Lindor's had. Yeah, I think he's played in every single game for him, and he actually leads them in hits. But as far as your batting average and actually just getting on base, he only has an OBP of 326. So 1/3 of the time he's actually getting on base between walking and hitting.
And then obviously, I mean, Nolan Arenado. The reason why he's disappointing me is I thought we were going to get a good stick out of him, and it's just not there. I can't complain about defense. Defense is phenomenal, but I wish the bat was a little better personally.
So, Mike, any other disappointments kind of here before we start predicting where the season's going to end up?
Yeah, one guy that I had to mention was Gleyber Torres, another New York shortstop. This one for the Yankees. Gleyber only with 3 home runs, batting .240. You know, after they let Didi Gregorius go, he was really expected to take a step forward and has really shown some lackluster defense as well. So, yeah, Gleyber Torres will need to step it up if the Yankees want to make a run.
All right. Well, boys, let's go ahead and send it off with some final predictions here. So I will start off with the AL East. I have the Blue Jays taking it. I think the Blue Jays are going to come up. I think the Red Sox hit a snag. I think the Rays play level, but I think the Blue Jays get red hot in the second half of the season. As we were talking a little bit more, Springer coming back could be a big deal. Could be a huge deal, and I think this team is young enough. You're going to see the dog days of August hit, and I think you're going to see Vlad Jr. continue this projection on. Players like Bo Bichette are going to kind of keep going, and like I said, I'm going to choose youth here. And also, last time the Phoenix Suns made the NBA Finals, the Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series. Just saying.
History does repeat.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to say here. Siggy, where are you going in the Easter?
The East, the Red Sox, they're red hot. And then if I were to go follow with the wild card, it's obviously going to be, I'm taking the Rays. I hope the Yankees.
Jumping the gun there, homie. Jumping the gun. We'll get to the wild card, but all right.
I thought we were going per division. My bad. And then I just hope the Yankees continue to burn. I don't want to see him come out at all. I'd love to see him finish 4th or 5th in division for a year. That would just be great personally, I think, for every baseball fan to see them not in the top 1 or 2 slot.
So fun fact, even if they lost every single game, as you so hope they wish they would, Siglin, they still would not have the worst record of all time because they have 46 wins right now.
I don't need them to have the worst record of all time. It would just be good to see them be the worst in their division for once.
So they would have to have a 20-game difference with the Orioles in the second half here because the Orioles are 28 games
John
back.
Means and Cedric Mullins are about to turn it up.
All right, you heard it from Hot Take Wheeler over here. That's going to be your new fucking nickname because I love your hot takes. They're so crazy and off the wall, but sometimes they're right. So I can't even dog him. He's probably got a better percentage than LVP does.
I screwed up one time. I was talking to Lane before we were going to shoot around. And I was like, yo, I think I'm going to take the Mariners over the Yankees today. He's like, why the fuck would you do that? And I was like, fuck the Yankees. Mariners ended up winning 4-1. I was so mad. And the bet on that, the Mariners just money line was plus 340.
Yeah, next time take that shit. Take it with the under and kind of bet on pitching with a terrible team. I've actually had several baseball bets work out that year. But Shaw, moving over to the AL East, who do you got picking?
I'm going to go with the Rays. Wander Franco, number 1 prospect, is now in the lineup. I think he's going to lead them offensively, and they're going to do what they always do and piece together a strong 9 innings of pitching. Yep, I'm rolling with the Rays for my AL East champ.
There we go. All right, so 3 different teams because obviously the East is very competitive right now. Now I think we can all say this in unison for the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox.
Southside.
Yep.
Also, by the way, sickest alternate uniforms that have ever been done. We need to get ourselves some Black Sox jerseys, boys, because that is absolutely nuts.
I think I'm going to get a Tim Anderson one like that or another Luis Robert jersey and go on my Luis thing.
One of the coolest players in baseball and most swag, TA7, Tim Anderson, shortstop.
Oh, yeah.
Money there. So, obviously, won't spend too much time on that. The AL West, as much as I hate to say this, the Trastros, I think, will win the division this year. I think they're too good.
They're hot.
The bats are working. They're a hot team, and they are just naturally a good team. Obviously, they're tied with the Red Sox for the top record. I'd honestly have them taking the regular season pennant at this point. I think they are going to win the most games for the AL. Long term, like I said, I just don't think Boston sustains the same success. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I like the Red Sox to succeed, but just looking at them from an outsider's perspective here, I think the Astros have more sustainable success long term as far as, grinding out the rest of the season. But
they also have great pitching.
They do. They have phenomenal pitching, even with losing Garrett Cole. But moving on to the wild card, obviously you said the Rays. I definitely also have the Tampa Bay Rays rocking into probably the first wild card spot. I'm going to say they host the wild card game. Shaw, where you got your first wild card pick? Because you picked the Rays to win the division, so obviously you're not going to agree with us there.
Yeah.
He's going to take the Yankees since he's a Yankees fan.
I'm going to take Blue Jays for my first wild card.
Ooh, okay. All right, I like it. Serrano, I mean, obviously we just kind of flip-flop division winners there. So you think the Sox completely jump out of the playoffs, or are they your wild card 2 pick?
I'm having Boston fall out of the playoffs and the Yankees catching them.
Oh,
That's
they can't
just
even
called bias right
they
there.
can't even beat the Red Sox. Okay, here's the deal. Do I think the Angels are going to turn it on and make some contention? Yes, but they are not my second playoff team. My second playoff team in the wild card, who will be visiting, in my situation, the Tampa Bay Rays, I got the Athletics making it in. The A's have always proven to be a solid team. Marcus Semien, hell of a shortstop. I think they build a great team around that there. And Matt Olson is just ripping the cover off the ball this year.
They also kind of go on a good run towards the final 2 months of stretch of baseball, I've noticed, but I also think the loss of Liam Hendricks could really hinder that.
That's true. That's true. So I would like to see it personally, but I mean, I'm really trying to be this one non-biased because, yeah, I'd pick the Angels all day long. Shohei plus Trout, money, but who knows what will happen there. Yeah, some interesting predictions there. Siggy, who do you got for your second wild card
I
team?
was actually going to go with the A's, but like I said, I have that thought on how much Liam Hendricks is going to play a role. And I mean, you even saw it last night. The dude was dominant at the All-Star game.
So we'll see what happens there. All right, now moving on to the National League. In the NL East, we'll actually start not with me. Siglin, who do you have in the NL East winning the division?
Well, if it wasn't for some injuries that transpired, it probably would have been the Braves. Probably. But now you just got to go off of pitching and everything, and the Mets. I mean, they have terrible offense, but their pitching is what keeps them in games and keeps them around.
Yeah, I also think Lindor is someone who could definitely turn it around, maybe just slumping a little bit, getting used to the new stadium, environment, everything like that. So I think, as far as disappointments first half, hands down. As far as surprises in the second half, look out, because we obviously know the talent to go, 30, 120, while batting 300 is there. He's done it. Just need to pick up the pieces and kind of continue on.
Hey, when you're that low, there's nowhere but up.
Exactly. So, starter in your contract, buddy. Do you also have the Mets going, though, Mike, in the NL East? So, at least we're all in consensus there, I think. In the East, which is probably the weakest division right now, if we're kind of looking at just how there's no team really running away with it, but yet the leader is only 7 games above 500. So,
if the Braves weren't so injured, they would be destroying that division.
Yeah, I think Acuna, who was a valid MVP candidate this year.
Acuna, is it Sakura towards the Achilles again? Or one of their pitchers re-injured their ACL earlier this season.
Mike Soroka, yeah.
So
we'll see what happens there. We will see what happens there. The Braves would have probably been my pick if it wasn't for the Acuna injury. I still think he was having a hell of a game. So picking it back up here, though, with the NL Central, I think this one's kind of a little bit more predictable. Just like the AL Central, I have the Brewers going over because right now the pitching's crazy. As you mentioned, a little bit of a drop-off since the substance checks, but Milwaukee always finds a way, it seems like. They have been dominant in the Central in the last 15, 20 years, as much as the Cardinals have been, kind of sneaking into some playoff spots, winning some divisional games. They haven't gotten the big success yet. This could be the year, though. I predict they add a big bat. I think they go after a Trevor Story. I think they go after a Chris Bryant, Ketel Marte. I think they grab a eye-popping name. They get some of that program, that farm system out there. Sell in on this year. Seriously, sell in on this year if I were the Brewers. Now, I'm biased. They are my second favorite team. My stepdad's a huge Brewers fan. My uncle, I believe, still has season tickets to Milwaukee. I know my cousin did back in the day. So I love the Brew Crew. I got a little bit of bias, so that is where I'm going to show my bias, and I'm picking them for the Central.
I'm going Cardinals. We're going to get Flaherty back. We're going to go right on top. We're going to go on one of the best runs you've ever seen after an All-Star break. No, I'm just kidding. I actually think it would be the Reds. I think the Reds, they're the most put-together team in the NL Central when you go look at everything. They have great bullpen pieces. They have great rotational starters. I mean, hell, 2 of them have thrown no-hitters this year. And then you go look at the bats. I mean, Joey Votto is coming alive at his old age. You got Jesse Winker absolutely tearing the covers off the ball a month ago. You got... I'm drawing a blank right now. Tyler Stevenson, the rookie catcher, is starting to really come into his role. And Nick Castellanos, that was the one I was drawing the blank on that made me come to Tyler Stevenson.
Yeah, second on the team with 18 home runs, 59 ribbies, but he's batting .331. He's actually second to Buster Posey in the NL in batting average right now. Posey, .332, only 1/1000th of a point behind in front of him. So you're talking about a team, like you said, very well put together. I still think the Brew Crew is going to bring it out, but I do have them... A little bit later we will talk about potentially. But now let's go to the most competitive division in baseball right now, the NL West. because right now you have 3 of the top teams in the entire league. You have the Giants at 57 wins, you have the Dodgers at 56 wins, and you have the Padres at 53 wins. All of them have better records than any team in the NL East. The Padres are literally a half game back from the Brewers as far as, so the 4th best record in the NL. And then when we switch over to the American League, I mean, the entire division's, better than almost everybody else besides the division leaders in the Astros, White Sox, and Red Sox. So out of the NL East, who do you think actually gets there? Or the NL West, who do you think actually takes that title?
I would say that I believe the Padres, they always turn it on towards the second half after All-Star break. Players start coming out. That was when Slam Diego was kind of really big coming around. But also with that being said, we don't know what's going to happen with Bauer. So without having him, that's a really big hinder on games that could cost the Dodgers to fall down. And then, I mean, like we're saying, the Giants have shocked everyone. Who knows how long they can keep this train going.
Exactly. Especially, we kind of talked about a lot of their players are older. You have Emma Longoria, Buster Posey, a lot of guys who are finding that fountain of youth, but I made the joke earlier, how long does that water run in that fountain? So
well, and then you look at the Padres, and they're nothing but youth.
Exactly. So second half.
Machado's like the oldest player on the starting lineup?
He's what, 32, 33?
Hosmer, yeah. Hosmer's old too, but yeah, they're young.
I thought they got rid of him.
Nope, Hosmer's still on the Padres, I believe.
He is?
So, but anyways, we Padres. Who do you have out of the NL West?
If I were betting, I would go Dodgers just because they're so deep. Of course, Bauer's really going to play a big role in that, but they're just so deep. Their offenses, they've been without Bellinger the last 2 months, so Dodgers are just too deep. But it's going to be a battle. I think San Fran will fall out, and it'll come down to Dodgers, Padres, and Dodgers take it.
There we go. So I'm actually going to side with Siglin here. I think that the Padres end up taking the division. I think Trevor Bauer is going to be out a lot longer than we think. In a world, whether you appreciate it or not, but in a world that is a little bit more cautious now in 2021, I don't think we're going to see Bauer back until there's a final resolution. I thought at first it was pretty damning, these text messages and everything, but also, I mean, you got to consider the situation, everything involved in that. It's a very, very sensitive situation when you're talking about, some sort of rough shit going on. So I think Bauer is going to be out for an extended period of time. Siglin's covering his mouth because the game's on in the background.
CP3 literally just blew that game.
Anyways, I think Bauer's going to be out for an extended period of time, honestly. So I think that's going to affect the Dodgers. I think that drops them out of the NL West title contending ship. But also, I'm going to kind of, run on the backs of the Giants, the bottom kind of falling out there. I actually have them completely out of the playoffs in my prediction because I do have the Dodgers as my first wild card, and I have your boys, the Reds, as my second wild card. Ooh. So I think Dodgers-Reds, hell of a wild card game matchup hosted in Los Angeles. But I don't know, Mike, for your wild card picks, and then we'll finish off here with Siglin before we get on to who our champions are. Who do you think is going in the wild cards for you?
I think if I pick the Dodgers in the West, I say that 3 teams are going to come out of the West. So my wild card will be Padres 1, Giants 2.
I'm actually the opposite. It would go the Padres 1, Dodgers. Or the Padres obviously take the division, so I would go Dodgers and then the Giants. I think the Giants, depending on, but like you said, they have such a good lead on everyone else for those wild cards that it'd be kind of tough to fizzle all the way out of that.
Yeah, because you're talking a 9.5 game split right now between the Reds and the Giants. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and throw that hot take here, channeling Siglin energy. Going a little outrageous, but you never know in the second half of the season. Teams can go on extreme cold streaks, hot streaks. We've seen it happen in much crazier scenarios.
Well, I also don't think that the Reds are going to be a wild card because I think they're going to take the NL Central. Those bats are warming up. I think the Brewers, you have to have offense to win a game. A pitcher can only do you so much, and you throw in a shitty relief pitcher one day, and there goes your game.
It's very true, but I still like the pitching of the Brew Crew. I think pitching maintains you down the stretch a lot more than hitting does. I think bats can go cold. Arms can too, but obviously not in such dramatic fashion, I think, as you see oftentimes in offense. We see offenses go from top 5 offenses during cold streaks. They're literally bottom 5 as far as average, OPS, literal just runs scored. I mean, we've seen offenses go from averaging 6-7 runs a game all the way down to 1-2. Pitching can't keep up. Even if the pitching's decent and has a mid-3s ERA, you're still losing games at that point and in bulk fashion.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, now we go to the final predictions of the episode. Out of the American League, Mr. Siglin Wheeler, we will start with you. Who do you think is taking the AL championship this year?
I don't want to say it.
Say it. Say it with your chest.
Don't want to say it.
The Cheat Stros?
Yeah, the Astros, the trash cans, the asterisks, the cheaters, whatever you want to call them. They're playing too hot, too good of ball right now. Everyone is hitting. They're throwing lights out. I mean, they're beating teams on 4-run averages or something like that. I was reading a bunch of weird stats before I left. My brain's all jumbled, plus after watching this. But, yeah.
We're not turning on the TV for you anymore.
Shut up. I think that the Astros is definitely the biggest. They're taking it. They're just too good. It's tough to compete with. And, hell, even when they're having pinch hitters come in or they're substituting for defense, it's working for them.
That's very true. Mike, how about you? Who's your AL winner? Is it going to be the Astros? Because, spoiler, against my better feeling in my gut, I am picking the Astros as my AL champs.
Yeah, the Astros leading the league in runs right now, number one offense. Hard to pick against them. But I just think that either the Yankees or the White Sox are going to find a way to come out on top. And I'm going to go with White Sox.
All right, we got the White Sox. And then let's just ready take it right into the NL champs. I'll shock you boys again. I think the Brewers are coming out. I think the Brewers add that firepower. I am selling in hard here. I am taking all of my chips and I'm putting them here because I think you make a move at the deadline, you go out there, you get that offense that you need because 23rd in the major leagues right now, that is not good enough to win a title. What is good enough though, you add one or maybe even two bats out there, the whole entire world changes. Seriously. And so I think the Brewers, they have the pitching, they have the deep bullpen. I think they can win out of the NL. Now, obviously, if I were a betting man, yeah, the Dodgers, the Padres, hella good teams to pick. But I just got a feeling about the Brewers this year, man. There's something about them to where I think when the playoffs come time, they won't finish with the wins. They will not finish with the regular season pennant. But when it comes time to perform in the playoffs, to win that first 5-game series and then win in 7, I like the Brewers to go to the title.
I strongly disagree with you. I think the Padres,
I know you had them out of the playoffs.
I think
overall.
the Padres are going to do exactly what they did last year, and they're going to buy. They're going to be calling teams. They're going to see who's got a few bullpen arms, who they're ready to get rid of, and they're going to bring them in. They're going to give them fresh life for a nice, good run.
How about you, Mike? Who's your NL team?
Yeah, for that reason as well, with Steve Cohen's deep pockets, I'm taking the New York Mets out of the NL.
Really?
Yes.
Shocking it. Surprising in the second half. I love it, boys. All right. So, your World Series matchups. Mike, you have the White Sox versus the Mets. Hell of a matchup there. Chicago, New York, but not the teams from Chicago, New York you would think would be in the World Series.
Right.
So, who is your matchup winner between Chicago and New York when it comes down to the World Series?
I think just based off of pitching, I think Jacob deGrom is going to swing a couple series in the playoffs, maybe pitch on short rest. I'm going to go with the Mets, bringing it home for the first time in a while.
There we go. All right. Biggie Siggy, Padres, Trastros. Who you got?
I think the Padres finally get them.
There we go. Thank you. Yes, we will now be picking the Astros. And obviously, Brewers, Astros. Predict it, boys. Milwaukee is bringing home a title.
Best rotation in
You
baseball.
might as well just go put that one on my bookie right now.
I'm going to.
Just to
lock it in.
I'll
throw $50 on it right now. If the Brewers win, I will lock $50. You know what we will do is live on air.
Bro, if the Brewers win, you're going to lock way more than $50.
No, I'm putting $50 on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
well, we are on
the odds
recording.
on that have got to be at least 1,000. Brewers to win the World Series.
Let's see here. Virtual odds MLB. World Series odds 2021. So right now the Dodgers are plus 350, the Yankees are plus 2,000, the Padres are plus 650, the Braves are plus 2,800. Shocker here, the Twins are plus 35,000.
Oh, dude, block that.
Yeah, Jesus Christ there.
Right,
so Brewers are only plus 1,200. So 12 times my money back if I put $50 down right now.
$600.
600 bones. Lock it. The Diamondbacks, count it, boys, 400,000 to 1 to win the World Series. Just put $1 on it and I'm rich.
That would be
put $1 on it and I'm
fat
rich.
Payout.
But it's never happening there.
No,
so
never.
let's see. You boys both got the Padres. You know what? I'll put the rest. I got to put more money on this count. Anyways, we'll put $10 on the Pods to win. That's $65. They're plus 650, so 6.5 to 1 odds there. Not bad, but obviously everybody's got the Dodgers. Like I said, though, I think this Trevor Bauer situation is far from over. These little 7-day leaves are going to turn into an indefinite suspension.
Well, shoot, it's been a 7-day leave, and now it's been extended till July 27th. So that's another 14 days they just added today.
Yeah, that's concerning, to say the least. So, right on, boys. Well, I think that's where we have it. Loved recapping the season here. We'll probably do a little bit around playoff time, maybe a World Series preview, I think would probably be best once we get the teams in there. We'll look back, see how wrong and right we were. But Mr. Mike Shaw.
I think a playoff matchup, do it right before the playoffs even, to break down, since we already tried to predict our whole playoffs in this episode.
That's true. We'll see where the scheduling goes because we talk about these things and then we are terrible at scheduling. This one actually worked. Coming the day after the All-Star game, we were actually able to pop into the stew here and do this video. But Mr. Mike Shaw, I appreciate you joining us. As always, any final words on you before we kind of sign off here?
Yeah. Great, fun first half. Looking forward to the second half. See who's buying and who's selling at the trade deadline.
All right, Siggy. Any final words for you, my man, before we sign on out of here?
I just can't wait to, as Mike said, follow off on that. I just can't wait to see where new players end up and see how the runs finish off. And hopefully some of these teams that are cold can pick it up and maybe some of these hot teams cool down. You never know. Yeah,
Mike, if you are available, we might need to do a smaller trade deadline review. Maybe after it's all said and done, August 1st, August 2nd, we pop back in this bitch. We talk about it. But for Fishing Elephant Media, for Rushmore Sports Addicts, all we have to say
to you.